So without further ado, welcome to our 2020 Q1, our first quarter, 2021 Q1 first quarter Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group. So I'm going to raise a glass, a Tableau glass, if you can see it, to 2021, to Tableau, to this community, to my fantastic leadership team, who I just told a few minutes ago has pulled my weight, pulled their weight, to get you this meeting together, bring all of you together and all of you. So here, cheers to this fantastic community. Let's have a fantastic 2021. So cheers to that. All right. And to my Charlotte friends, because I don't usually do this, but I'm drinking cherry limeade sherbet from Triple C Brewing out in Charlotte. So fantastic breweries out there, fantastic breweries here in the Triangle. We live in the golden age of craft breweries. So, all right. Yeah, so here we are. We are in another new year. We got a lot of fun things planned for this year. And hopefully we're all kind of crossing our fingers for that time when we can all come back together in person. But until then, we're going to make the most of this, our virtual environment. So again, where are we? Obviously, we got a lot of folks here in and around the Triangle. As I mentioned before, there is something red on my screen. I'm not sure what that is. So we got a lot of folks. I had some folks from down the Outer Banks, some Winston, some Charlotte folks. So we had we had a lot of big spikes when we first did our announcement. We sent our email out, and then we've had a few people trickle in, but this is my favorite visualization because I love to see just the growth of Tableau among, really not even the big names anymore. I remember I'm sitting here looking at Greg and looking at Cisco, and I just remember back in the old day when our user group first started, it was kind of a Cisco and Blue Cross hangout. And now they're not at the top of the food chain anymore. We got a lot of folks from Duke. Obviously, our Meredith and the Duke school have been a big proponent and big support of ours. But they are really coming from all over Duke. Duke's the college, the healthcare side, the hospital, all over Duke, as well as all over the NC government. I just am so proud to see that all throughout the different departments of, Health and Human Services to the DOT, all of those different government agencies are utilizing Tableau and wanting to make smart decisions with data. So, I look at that as a positive for the ways that we're spending our government money here. So I'm happy to see Tableau's utilization within our government, as well as UNC. Obviously, Duke is bigger than UNC because we know, and unfortunately have to let out a tear that because of COVID, Duke will not be participating in the rest of the ACC tournament. So those of you that did not know that, you now know, and so you can shed a small tear with me that we will not be finishing the rest of the ACC tournament. But aside from that, we're gonna move on. All right, so. But also you can see here is the number of different jobs, the number of people that we have here. Obviously lots of data analysts, but some AVPs, some BI developers, pricing analysts. It just really take a gander and just look at this, this range of jobs where people are utilizing Tableau. And I hope this gives some hope for you that are maybe they feel like they're stuck in their role, or if you're in a role and you don't think that anybody's using Tableau in your role, this kind of provides some of that hope to you that don't think that you're stuck. You're never stuck. There's always opportunities for you to grow and be challenged. And then if there's something you want to get into, I think this is a fantastic community where we can continue to reach out and grow with one another. And now I'm going to pass it over to my fellow leadership team member, Jesse Bickman, and he is going to lead our session called Have a Job, Need a Job. And Jesse has posted here a link to our community group here for Have a Job, Need a Job. Jesse, you want to lead this session and see if anybody wants
Absolutely.
Come off mute.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is our quarterly Have a Job, Need a Job section. So typically we'll have if you're an employer and you're trying to hire someone to work on your team or someone that you know, you'll share a job description and kind of what kind of person you're looking for to work with you. And then if anyone's looking for a job, well, I'll have the opportunity to share kind of what kind of job you're looking for, what your qualifications are, and just share that here in the chat, I guess. And then also, I put a link to our community page. You can see there's been some posts recently. One, for example, by Paul McHale for Red Hat, and then a couple other ones from also from January, and then going back to December from our last event. A good place to put jobs if you're hiring for them. Anyone hiring? Now's your chance to let everyone know.
I'm on mute. Sorry, I meant to say this. So everyone came in muted, but we're doing something a little different this user group, and we have basically come in as a Zoom call and not just a webinar. So not only for Ben's session later, where we'll get to do some live Q&A, but also for this Have a Job, Need a Job session. If you are currently hiring, raise your hand and we will unmute you, and you can share your job, the little 5 to 10 second description. Anybody want to raise their hand and tell us they're hiring? I can't see the hands. Any hands, guys? Just anybody see any hands?
I'm not seeing any raised at this time,
okay.
Chris.
All right, fantastic. Okay, all right, Jesse, you want to move on to the...
All right, and if anyone's looking for a job, just go ahead and share that information in the chat, or raise your hand if you want to share it vocally, verbally. That's your opportunity to put yourself out there.
So everybody on the call has their dream job, is what you're saying.
All right. Well, I went ahead and put the link to the community page in chat one more time. Good reference for posting your availability and posting your jobs that you've got for people to apply to.
Absolutely. So yeah. So again, use this community page. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jesse. Yeah. So again, don't be shy. If again, as Greg said, if you do not have your dream job, don't feel like you're stuck. This is a fantastic community. The members of not only this leadership team, but also of this community have brought me to where I am today. And so utilize this community. Reach out. Anyone you see on this leadership team, anyone you see in this community, on this list here, reach out and just talk to people. Don't be shy. Post your resume out here. You never know what could happen and what could. So just take that first step and put yourself out there. Same thing with if you are an employer, you're looking to hire someone. Look at our community page. Look at the members in our community. Reach out and talk to them. Talk to somebody on the leadership team, because we do know oftentimes people won't post here, so we might have an in somewhere that people won't typically have. All right.
And I would add to that, Chris, if folks are uncomfortable, just kind of stating that they're looking for a job on this call, the whole team is approachable, as Chris was implying.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, so now it is our time to announce our Tableau student Viz contest. And so in order to give you all the rules and the lowdown and what we're going to do for this next upcoming Iron Viz contest, Marit is going to give us the rules and the breakdown for this next event. So Marit, take it away.
Yes, thanks, Chris. So we had a Viz contest in the third quarter of last year. There were a lot of wonderful submissions. We had first, second, and third place. However, this Viz contest conflicted with some finals. So a lot of students didn't have time to create Vizes because they were studying, working on finals. So we decided this time around, we'd have a Viz contest that would be more student focused. Chris, I think it was the first link on the top. But yeah, so this one is student focused in that it doesn't conflict with finals, at least I hope it doesn't. And it is sponsored by Deutsche Bank. So Deutsche Bank will join the Q2 event, and some people from Deutsche Bank will talk about the current roles that we have open and some other things. So for the Q1 RDUTUG Viz contest, the Viz theme is sports. So we'd like you to create a Viz that is in any shape or form related to sports. So you can either pick a specific sport, it can be general sports, it can be maybe the history of sports. So it's pretty broad. Anything that's related to sports, we will pretty much accept. And the data sources that you can use. So again, anything that's related to sports, you can bring in one data source, or you can bring in additional data sources. So anything that is relevant, you can use. You can also bring in logos, you can bring in pictures, maybe even some videos if that works. It's kind of up to you what you want to do with it. So this Viz contest is a little more broad in that you basically do whatever you want. I mean, within reason, of course. The judging criteria, so this is the same as last time. We are looking at analysis, design, storytelling, and uniqueness. So analysis, that we're going to be looking at how do you analyze your data. Design is more about what do you do with the data, what kind of picture do you create, maybe looking at the UI, UX, depending on if they're actions, if it's more of a story. So it kind of falls under the design. And storytelling, so for storytelling, you don't have to use the story feature. You can use sheets and workbooks, but what we're looking at for storytelling is, does your visualization tell a compelling story? And then uniqueness looks at, do you have a unique design? Do you have a unique maybe flow of sheets, flow of dashboards? So, or maybe you're using certain functions in a very unique way, so that'll give you extra points for uniqueness. The judging panel will be the RDUTUG leadership team. So pretty much the 5 of us on this call, and then also Paul. So yeah, the 6 of us are going to be judging your Vizes. The submission deadline is end of April. So at midnight, April 30th, 2021, you should have emailed your Viz, which you should publish on the Tableau public site. Make sure you add the hashtag RDUTUG, otherwise we might not be able to find it. And then also if you could email the RDU leadership team. So I think on the bottom there's an email address, which I've added. So basically you'll need to do those 2 steps. The team size is 1 person. So yeah, work on it on your own. You could get some feedback from other people, but it should be your own submission. And then the prizes, which are pretty exciting. So since we're sponsored by Deutsche Bank, we're able to give out some pretty great prizes this time around. So you can see $500 for first prize. So we'll give you that as a gift card. Second prize is going to be $300. Third prize is $200. And then we have 3 additional prizes, which are going to be given out for best use of data, best storytelling, and best UI UX. And then depending on how many people submit their Viz, we're thinking of also giving out a couple smaller prizes. But we'll tell you about those next time once we announce the winners. But you never know, if you participate, maybe you'll receive something. So it's definitely good to just submit something, give it your best, see what you can create, and just make sure you submit it by April 30th, 2021. And then we'll have the award ceremony at our next Q2 event, which we're planning for, I think we had said sometime in June, but we will keep you posted on that. And then with regards who can participate, so it's going to be anybody who is going to school in North Carolina, or anybody who calls North Carolina their home. So you don't have to be a student. This is geared towards students, focused on students, but you can be anybody who lives in North Carolina to be able to participate. And we'll also be sending out a Google form. So please fill that out. We'll give you all the information after this event through an email with regards to the details, and then also, make sure you fill out that form in order to participate. And if there are any questions, feel free to put them in the group chat. But with that, I'll hand it back to Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Marit. So I wanted to add something. I wanted to let you finish, and then we obviously got interrupted there. But I wanted to add, as for data sources, we talked about this. If you're struggling, you don't know where to start. Now, I mean, obviously, we know at this point in 2021, the world is literally our oyster when it comes to data sources. So ESPN is rampant with data sources. But Sports Viz Sunday, which has featured, and unfortunately he couldn't be here tonight for lots of reasons. Number one, anyway, okay, well, I'll let him tell that. But Paul McHale has been featured and has worked with Sports Viz Sunday. His visit of the day was on Sports Viz Sunday on the Masters. So I'm sure that's in here. And anyway, sportsvizsunday.com/data. We'll get you into a repository of different data sources. American sports, football, which those of you that are here in America is soccer, Formula One, race cars. I mean, you name it. There's all sorts of things. Schultz, I'm wondering if they've got the competitive eating data here in other sports. No, sorry, no competitive eating. So maybe next time, maybe you can add that to the repository. All right. Well, like I said, without the sportsvizsunday.com/data, get you started, pick your favorite sport and go from there. All right. So let's rock and roll. And that is it for our welcome and introduction. Those are the things we have coming up. But for the main event tonight, I'm going to let my mentor, my friend Greg Lewandowski introduce our speaker for the night, Ben Jones, the co-founder and CEO of Data Literacy. Greg, take it away.
Well, you just kind of introduced him, didn't you? All right. So thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We know that it's probably been a long day for everybody and it's getting late. But we are happy to have you here, and we've got a fantastic speaker today. So we have Ben Jones. For those of you who do not know Ben, Ben is a friend of mine. We've been friends for probably about 10 or 12 years now. Ben is known for a lot of things. Number one, he is known for having taught thousands of individuals how to use Tableau and how to do better visualizations. He is a pretty active public speaker as well, doing multiple conferences, including co-chairing a very prestigious conference several years ago called Tapestry, which is all about visualization. Ben was also the 2012 Iron Viz champion, so that is an important notch in his belt. Ben was also the product manager that ran Tableau Public for Tableau for several years. As the story has it, he discovered Tableau Public, became pretty prolific with it, and one day found himself packing his family up and moving from California to Seattle in order to take a job with Tableau. So it's kind of again, if you don't have your dream job, there's lots of opportunities there. Ben is also known for being an author. I believe he's got 4 books out right now. The most recent one came out in 2020. And he's working on a new one right now. We hope he's going to share a little bit about that and tell us what that's about and when we might be able to see that. And most recently, Ben has started a company. He's the co-founder and CEO of dataliteracy.com, which has a mission of helping people to learn how to learn the language of data and really helping to improve folks. So Ben, again, we thank you so much for joining us today. and we'll give it over to you to go ahead and share and tell your story.
All right, cool. Thanks, Christopher. Thanks, Greg. Nice to be here with everyone. I notice on the list of participants, a lot of other names of people I know, Christopher Schultz, Kevin Taylor, and others. Nice to be here virtually with each other. You know, it'd be great to be back together in person at some point in the near future, and we're all looking forward to that. Well, it's an honor to be able to present to you today. To start my presentation, I just really want to say, fly me to the moon. I mean, come on, was that like the most pleasant Zoom bomb ever? I mean, I was just like, this is great.
It was you.
Play it, let her go, let her go. It's gonna be better than me. So, aren't they supposed to be rude or something? She was like incredibly on key the whole time. Unbelievable. Yeah, whoever that was, thank you. So let me share my screen and quit the antics over here. All right. So I'm looking forward to this presentation. This is one I'm really passionate about. I mean, I'm hopeful this may be dispelling some myths or misconceptions that I've had, that I've seen in the business intelligence space for some time now. Yeah. So I want to talk about the role of human intuition in analytics. And I hope I've got some good news to share. And I would like to engage throughout. So we have some questions set up at the end, but please feel free. I've got the chat right here. So let me know your thoughts as we go along. This is one of a handful of presentations that the folks that run your TUG chose today. And like I said, this is a fun one. A lot of ideas and thoughts. I'll probably try to break out of the slides at least once or twice to talk about, you know, I think there's no Tableau user group that doesn't involve, hopefully, some use of Tableau, right? So we'll try to get into some of that as we go through. But a lot of this is conceptual. A lot of this is just kind of embracing the human side of what we do when we work with numbers and data. Okay, so that's just a kind of a little bit of a precursor. They've already said a lot about me, so I will just pass through this. This is really just in case you want to get a hold of me. I'm on Twitter way too often. My name over there is @DataRemixed, which was the name of my blog that I started writing a while back when I first got into this space. And what a great community, what a great product. Really has changed, I think, so much of what it means to be an analyst, be even someone without that title who interacts with data on a regular basis. We've all used many different tools, some of them better than others, but it's hard to really compare when it comes to the analytical power that we get with Tableau to flexibly ask and answer questions of our data and just really kind of be in the flow, you know. And that's really their goal of the founders who I was fortunate enough to be able to meet and work with for about 7 years there at Tableau. And those are a handful of my books. One of the things that was nice about leaving Tableau a couple of years ago, very hard thing to do. We talked about a dream job at the beginning, and for many years, that was what the Tableau public opportunity was for me. And so it was tough to step away from that. But since then, I've been able to get 3 books out. So that's been nice, you know, been able to spend more of my time helping educate and train. And that's really been my focus of late. Okay, so that's me, but let's move past that now. Okay, so my company is all about helping people learn and grow. What we've been doing the last year with a whole lot more time on our hands because of no commuting, because of no events or travel, or you know the deal, right? Stressful times, right? But in some ways we were able to get a lot done and publish 2 books, 2 on-demand courses, which you can find on our site. I'll have a code that I'll send. We'll get it at the end, just in case you want to get a discount on those things. But this topic here today is actually covered in the very first foundational course. This is intended for people who are data phobic. Okay, that's a phrase we use. And we all know people like that. They're really intimidated by data. They don't think it's for them. They don't really feel like they have what it takes. There are a shocking amount of people that go into that category, and we're trying to get them out. So we cover these 8 topics here in the fundamentals course. And the second one is all about this way our brain works when it works with data. And again, we're trying to set the stage for someone just entering into the world of data, that their intuition and their experience, and actually, yes, their gut still matters. Okay, so I'm going to hopefully prove that to you today. So first, a story. So wow, just before this whole thing began, I had another roller coaster ride. I proposed to my now wife, Becky, which I guess a spoiler alert, that means she said yes. But that was about, gosh, it feels like 5 years ago. I guess it was just a year and a half ago. There you go, July 28th, right? 2019. We were on a beautiful coast up in the northwest corner, very, very, very northwestern tip of the northwestern state of the entire country, at a little place called Shy Beach. There it is. And so again, she said, yes, great news, right? Thank you. Well, 5 days later, wouldn't you believe it? I got a telephone call. She was kind of not feeling good. You know, hey, I need you to come down and be in the waiting room. I'm at a medical imaging center in Bellevue, our hometown. And so I said, sure, I'll be right there. Well, I sat in the waiting room for about 2 hours. At this point, I realized something wasn't going well. And so, many of us have been in this boat before with our loved ones. And so she came out and pretty much just collapsed into my lap. She got diagnosed with breast cancer. Okay, so again, that's 5 days. Now, we were going to get married in summer of 2020, which, as we know, isn't exactly the best summer for wedding planning. However, at the time, we had no knowledge of that, clearly. So we decided, let's just do it now. So we did. We got married right away. And so there we go, right? So just what is that? 4 weeks later, unbelievable. And I was out of town for 2 or 3 of those weeks. Somehow she planned a rooftop wedding. And again, another couple of weeks into surgery. There she is, flexing her muscles. And she's doing great, right? So I'll get that out of the way. She's doing wonderful. She just passed her second full MRI scan, all clear, all good. They caught it early, thankfully, and just a relief, okay? But this is sort of connected to the topic for me in a way that I think maybe will help you understand why I'm so passionate about it. I already was passionate about this topic before this event happened, but her doctor, that day that I got the phone call, okay, that I went down to the waiting room, I didn't actually know it, but she was going in for a normal mammogram screening. Okay, so she did that and came back, no problems, clear. Everything looks good on the mammogram. You're good to go. See you again in a year, okay? And her doctor said, well, I just don't believe it. There's something about it. I just don't know. I feel like there's something wrong. I need you to go in for an ultrasound. There's just something doesn't feel right about that test result. I don't know. I have almost a sixth sense about it. And it was related to some observations she was making. But so she sent her back in for a second test. Okay. And so that's when I got the phone call. It was after the second test, when the first test was giving her the green light, A-OK. Second test, no. And again, it was thanks to her doctor for having the wherewithal, right, to kind of get to that next level of diagnosis. All right, so that sort of talks a bit about my connection to the importance of analyzing situations with data we have, also allowing and engaging with sometimes an intuition or a gut feel. All right, so this connects back to about a half decade ago, a little more than that now actually, where I was watching TV on the couch and I saw an advertisement. I think it was a Super Bowl ad actually, and I won't say who the vendor was. It was a business intelligence vendor, a rather large one, but we'll leave it at that. And the advertisement was, one of those ones where you're watching and there's like music going, and then there's like a conveyor belt with a box moving on it, and then it like clips to a person's headshot giving a fancy quote, and then it moves again and it's got an airplane taking off, and then another person gives a quote. The advertisements I'm talking about, really high energy, techie kind of feel. Okay. Well, in one of those headshots, a person said, we used to use intuition, now we use analytics. Ta-da! And it went on to the next little fancy clip. And I remember listening to that ad and I just said, in fact, I think I even jumped out off the couch and I said, no, that's not how it is. That is not the way it works. And so I've always been very keenly aware of the way I feel about this topic. Okay, so that just sets the stage. And then from there, I started to look into it, reading and studying and trying to clarify this, frankly, gut feel I had about this statement being wrong. And so I'd like to share with you some of the research findings that I've come across, some of the reading I've done into this area. And again, my goal is to convince you that this is the wrong way to look at it. And then we'll close with what I think is the right way to look at it, okay? And then I'll modify this statement maybe in a way that hopefully you can probably predict, but there we go. Okay, so now here's what it comes down to. The way that I think that advertisements and that many people have thought of this topic is that you or a decision you make is either intuitive or analytical, one or the other, okay? And so not only one or the other, maybe you'd say, let's take it to another level and have there be a sliding scale between it. In other words, a decision that's more analytical is therefore less intuitive, or a decision that is more intuitive is therefore must be less analytical than, say, another kind of decision that you might make. And actually, this is not unlike, many of you probably know, the Myers-Briggs type of score. And so, right, the second column there is sensing, observant, or intuitive, introspective. And so people think of themselves as a INTJ or ENFP. And they put together one of those. So then I, for my second character, am either have an S in there or have an N in there. That's it. I can only pick one. I can't say sort of both. I can't say 60% S, 40% N. No, the way Myers-Briggs works, as you know, it's just that second character is either an S, in which case you're sensing and observant, analytical, or you put an N in there, meaning you're in tune with your gut. Okay, so again, it presents an either or choice for people. Which are you? You can't be both. Okay, so again, this is kind of the reality that I think we have been kind of faced with, this concept out there. And actually, I read a lot of books about this topic, as I mentioned, and one of them, it isn't just that you have to be one or the other. Then, right around maybe the dot-com bubble burst into the 2000s and beyond, I just had finished college at UCLA and I started my career. Now, right around that time, books started being published about this fact that analytics is the way to go. Data is the way to go. Intuition is outdated. For example, Super Crunchers by Ian Ayres. He says, we're in a historic moment of horse versus locomotive competition, where intuitive and experiential expertise is what? Losing out time and time again to number crunching. He goes on to say, database decision-making is on the rise all around us, sure. And then he issues the chilling warning, intuitivists beware, okay? So there you go, right? Clearly, this person is saying that you do not want to be using intuition. You want to be using data. Why? Because analytics is better than intuition. Let's talk about some definitions. And this isn't really, I don't want to belabor this point, but I do think it makes sense to pause here since we're getting into this discussion around intuition versus analytics. What are those things? What are those topics or concepts? Analytics, as defined in a groundbreaking book, Competing on Analytics, by Davenport and Harris, that analytics is the extensive use of data, statistical and quantitative analysis, explanatory and predictive models, and fact-based data management to drive decisions and actions. Okay, there you go. We all know that, so that's an easy one. I think intuition is a little more difficult to define. So it's defined, I mean, if you look at the dictionary, it's the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. It comes from a Latin word, intuere, which actually is looking on something or gazing at something, upon something. So it already has a connection to the eye, to the visual cortex, okay? And so then there's this kind of connection to our body that way. But let's go a little bit further than that, right? So there's some related ideas, I think, and I would like to just contrast intuition and two or three other related concepts or constructs. One is the notion of, sorry, let me go back to that. Let me move my face out of the way. There we go, is instincts, right? So, oh, is that like my instinct? Sort of, but not exactly. So an instinct, like someone swinging a bat when they see a ball coming at them, that's usually, it's not really necessarily like a knowledge structure. It's usually like a knee-jerk, physiological, physical kind of a reaction is typically what is understood when people talk about the notion of instincts, but they're related, right? Again, they don't require a whole lot of deliberation intellectually. It's more just like these things happen to us, almost like we experience them, an instinct as well as intuition. But there's a subtle difference there. Also, this idea of insight. Now, we hear this word in the data space all the time. Oh, it's all about delivering insight. And that's the same thing. Well, kind of, but not exactly, because actually the real understanding, or more accurate understanding of the word insight is that it sort of is like this eureka moment, and it kind of happens to you usually after this period of delay between some thought or some problem or some thinking you were doing, and then that answer. Okay, that is probably going to be oftentimes after you step away from it and you just allow your brain to almost process things in the background, and you have this aha moment. Okay, so again, it's similar, and so I think it's important to mention it. But what the nuance that insight brings is that it involves this incubation period, right, after some kind of inspection. Next here, that I think actually intuition is highly creative, and so in a sense, it is connected to the concept of creativity. But again, not exactly the same. As we all know, creative, someone who's highly creative, is doing something brand new for the first time, making connections that we've never thought of, or they're doing something very clever or unusual. And then clearly, can involve some type of artistic expression or something like that, but not necessarily. You could be a creative coder, right? And so you might come up with some new approach to handle a specific problem in programming. And so, again, these are related constructs. I wanted to put those out there just because I think it's important to kind of just help us really grasp what we mean, what I mean anyway, when I'm talking about the idea of intuition. Okay, there we go. So when you look at the research into intuition, there's been a lot of it. People have looked into human intuition quite a bit, actually. And usually it comes down to one of two things. This is either a hunch someone has, so they're making some kind of a decision or a choice, and there's some kind of like subconscious processing happening there, and it's bringing in things from different places, and that is the gut feeling kind of understanding of the word intuition. That's on the left side of this little decision tree here. On the right side is this idea of like, I have something I just do automatically by rote because I've been doing it for so long. I'm so good at it. I know the patterns. I know exactly what's coming. This is sort of what I do. And I just enact my sort of subconscious mind to kind of apply what I've learned in the past to what's going on right now. So that's another aspect of the meaning of the word intuition. So the question is, again, we've seen some pretty provocative quotes from some of those books about intuition no longer being valuable or losing out time and time again to data. So are these ideas, these two things, these two conceptualizations of intuition, are those really something we need to get rid of and stop using? And that would be, again, what it would seem to be that many people think or feel. Now, let me kind of talk about also what is actually connected, what's going on when this happens. So there's a connection to the emotions. Think about things you are afraid of, or that you are maybe, leaning away from, something you have a dislike for, or versus something you really feel attracted to, you want, you desire, you like, you enjoy. So there's an intuitive component there, right? It's not like you say, there's an ice cream cone and a spider, let me consider which would be better for me, right? You sort of just kind of know there's this emotional part of it, almost like, oh, I'm really excited about making this decision in business, as if you were ordering an ice cream, or there's a aversion to a certain path to go down, almost as if that path had a big spider on it. No, let's not do that. That's going to be a big mistake for us as a business. So those are some things that I would say are brought into the forefront of our mind in terms of the way we feel about the situation when it's happening, when our intuition is being engaged, okay? What's really fascinating is they found that it actually triggers what they call somatic markers. That's a fancy word for pretty much meaning your hands get sweaty. But there are other physiological reactions that people, like the gambling table here, right? They've noticed that a gambler will have sweat forming on their palms right before they just have a gut feel about a bet they're going to put on the table. They just know it. There's something going on. They feel it's going to be a good bet. And so again, and they may be right, they may be wrong, and that's another story. But I simply want to say that, there is actually a connection to our physiological response when we have our intuition engaging. okay, for better or worse, and for right or for wrong. In other words, there is what they call the spidey sense, this idea of, kind of having this actually physical feeling happening, just like Spider-Man, when there's a villain behind him, he just gets this spidey sense called tingling, right? Is sort of the way in the comic books it describes him feeling when he just has this sense, this supernatural, in his case, sense of what's about to happen, something negative usually, and he's on the alert for that, okay? So there's something like that. Now, there are different ways we become aware, as I'm just kind of indicating, right? One would be this, as I mentioned, this physical sensation that we feel. Oh, I'm having a strong intuition about this. You might become aware of that because of something physical you feel. Or like the ice cream versus the spider, it might be an emotional feeling. Or you may actually have a mental experience, like I've got this vision of something and it strikes me that something comes to mind in that way, and as a thought. Or, and we won't dive into this part of it too much, but there could actually be some things some people describe as more of a spiritual experience or awareness that someone might have. And again, these are all things that data people tend to, I would say, shy away from. These are taboo topics. These are topics that feel shaky and foreign, and then there are reasons for that. But in any case, they are connected to this idea of having an intuitive experience. Okay, so there we go. I just wanted to make sure we cover all of our bases so that we're on the same page about what these things are. We talked about there being a connection to the eyes, or what we're seeing. Well, it turns out that, let's say you walk into a room and you see someone smiling. You know right away that they're happy, or at least they're expressing happiness or joy. You don't need to study the angles of the mouth and the corners of the mouth, or take any measurements or readings of, the shape of their eyes in that moment, or anything like that. We just have this intuition about how someone is feeling in a moment. And that is beyond just happiness. It could be these other kind of basic emotions. So as human beings, as social creatures, this is part of the reason why the social distancing was so hard, is because we were separated from smiles because someone had a mask on, right? So there's a cost to that. And so it's a real cost. We actually are able to connect with each other and interact together by virtue of our facial features. In fact, babies are able to do that. There's a study here that a 6-month-old child is already making the link between what they're, they did eye tracking studies of little babies showing a person's face and then having a certain audio track. And you can see, and the studies showed that babies actually are already, even at 6 months old, picking up these cues and reacting to facial features out of an intuitive sense. So it isn't something we learn at school or by someone telling us. It's sort of ingrained in us. It's something that just kind of emerges from our minds as we develop and as we grow from a very, very, very young age. Okay. And actually, in the world of data visualization, we talk about this all the time, this connection to the eyes, because there's this idea of preattentive processing, that some visual attributes we are aware of before we even have time to think about them or pay attention to them. Preattentive, before paying attention to something. It's almost like, take a look at all these shapes and all these boxes. What are the shapes that pop off the screen to you in each one of those small boxes? Without you even looking, without you even saying, oh, what do I notice in here? Let me analyze the shapes of these objects that I see. When you first look at it, some of the objects, one of the objects or more, is going to present itself as different than the others. In less than 200 to 250 milliseconds is the definition for preattentive processing. These are just ways all of us, no matter whether you've learned Tableau or gone to school for data visualization, this is one thing I love about teaching people data and interacting with data, is that this is for everyone. It doesn't matter your title or what degree you got. I mean, this is all how our brains work. It's amazing. So, even just this way, in a sense, on a certain level, that you are engaging with your intuition, as we'll talk about in a moment, when you see a chart or a graph, there's already intuition happening. There's already knee-jerk observances that you're making without consciously reasoning or thinking through the details of what you see. Not to say that you don't also want to consciously reason through the details of what you see. You absolutely do. But there's also that part of it where as soon as someone shows the dashboard, your eyes go right to something. What is that? Why are you looking there? That's an intuitive reaction that you had. Now, all of this was discussed at length in, someone mentioned, Greg mentioned Malcolm Gladwell's Blink. Yeah, he talks about people and examples of people, like, for example, people in law enforcement that have a sense about what's about to happen. That certainly can be the case sometimes. And so Blink is a good one to talk about situations that are ones where you want to be relying on your intuition more than others. We'll talk about that more in one moment. Not that book, but that concept, that there are moments and situations where your intuition is what needs to matter. A firefighter feeling like he needs to get his crew out of the burning building and does so split second before the whole thing collapses, right? Why did you get your crew out there and then? I don't know. I've had this feeling like something was going wrong. Okay, so system 1 and system 2 thinking. This is really what it comes down to, okay? I want to get into the science of this way we think. So in other words, really what researchers have found is it is not like a spectrum. You're either intuitive or analytical. Your decision is either intuition-based or data and analytics-based. You can break those apart. There are 2 scales. They're different scales. And your decision is going to be high or low on each one of them. In fact, since we're going to break them apart, instead of having them be parallel like that, okay, let's flip them and make them perpendicular or orthogonal, just like an XY axis. This is a Tableau user group, so you're all familiar with that, right? The Cartesian coordinate system, X and Y. Well, let's just put analytical on the X. Let's put intuitive on the Y. Okay, there we go. Now, I can imagine a specific decision I'm making as being a dot I'm going to place somewhere on this grid, somewhere in there. And it might be highly intuitive. I have a gut feel that it's the right decision to make. And guess what? It's highly analytical. I spent the time, I got the data, and lo and behold, the data says that seems to be a appropriate course of action. All right. So there it is in the top right, maybe up here. But I could also see the R squared value of 0.07. When you take a look at all of the decisions that we or our team makes and plot all of them anywhere, well, it could be anywhere. There's no dependency. There's very little correlation between these 2 components. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you you can be, again, anywhere in this spectrum, anywhere on this plane, actually. Not a spectrum, it's a plane. All right, there we go. Now, others have talked, like Lieberman talks about the same idea of system 1, system 2. Sometimes you can hear of it as X system. Okay, I'm color coding everything here. Blue, that is all system 1 intuition. Red, that is all system 2 rational data. So blue over here, system 1, X system. System 2, analytical. Red, C system for cognitive or reflective. Now, by the way, that is more recently evolved parts of the human brain. That's something that we probably have more to go as it relates to our evolution as a species, because sometimes we can reason inaccurately, as we've all experienced, right? So, one's more like the lizard brain. That's the left, okay? Not the left brain, right brain. I don't mean that construct. I'm just simply saying on the left side of the slide, you might have a reflex. It's emotionally driven. The same kind of words we've been talking about here. And again, older in evolutionary terms. There we go. Okay, so then it all comes from this part of our brain called the VMPC, ventral medial prefrontal cortex. And you can see where it's located in the brain right there in the frontal lobe. And it's actually at the bottom of the cerebral hemispheres, okay? And it's actually kind of connected to the amygdala, and it's also, this is again our intuition. Amygdala, that's something that is connected to the reaction or the fear reaction, right? The amygdala is your sense of, some people have a heightened sense of fear of heights, for example, or a fear of spiders or something like that. Lots of things we can have a heightened sense of fear about, and that might be different from person to person. But that's, again, this is again connecting or sort of illustrating that this is sort of the type of processing and brain structure we're talking about. It goes back for a long ways in terms of evolutionary history. This is an interesting idea. Well, they've been studying, they've learned a lot about it. How do they know that's where it is in the brain? I always wonder that. How do they know? Well, the way they know is because they've been studying people that have damage to specific parts of the brain, like that part. And so in Descartes' Error, a book by a psychologist named Antonio Damasio from UCLA, he talks about some interesting studies and research that's happened with people who have damaged parts of their brains, including the Iowa gambling task. I'll leave it to you to Google that. You can actually play it online. You can do the Iowa gambling task. It's going to present you with some choices to make to win or lose money. And the idea is just that even people with a damaged brain who, they were unable to kind of learn about what is a good versus a poor wager to make, whereas those who don't have damage to that part of their brain kind of generally eventually pick it up, but that they're noticing activity in that part of the brain near the amygdala, the VMPC, even before the person can tell you why they're choosing, in this case, one of these 4 decks of cards. So in other words, the brain is learning before you're even aware that it's learning, which is a fascinating thing. It's just amazing the way our minds work. All right, so then here's what it comes down to, though. I mean, we need to ask ourselves, what's the relative value of these different ways of thinking to us as decision makers, or to our teams as people who are trying to work together to make decisions together. Okay. Now, this is a completely overused phrase that probably we're all tired of hearing, but you've heard the phrase, data is the new oil. Okay. So there was all this hype and exuberance, right, around the use of data. And this is the kind of thing that we've all seen lately. And it's driven the business intelligence industry. It drove sales and growth of Tableau and Microsoft Power BI and all of the other players, really. This idea that, data is what we need to be leveraging and using as a key resource. Totally, totally true. Okay. However, I think we've kind of gone a little too far with our idea of what it can do for us versus other forms of thinking. Okay. So the way I think of it is if data is the new oil, okay, let's run with the overused analogy one more time. If that's the case, then I would say that the intuition is the spark plug of the engine of the human mind. So there's fuel coming from the oil, there's oil lubricating the parts, but something's got to make it go. What's going to make it go? Our human intuition, the spark plug. If that happens, now all of a sudden things start moving and things start happening in a way that's quite amazing, really powerful to see. So let me kind of explain this analogy, because I don't think it's really actually either intuition or analytics. I don't even really almost see them as 2 separate things. I think it's all together in one brain that is trying to make sense of the world and try to figure out what to do. In fact, I would make the argument that when you're being analytical, even in the process of analyzing data, you're engaging parts of your brain that I would describe as intuitive. Let me explain what I mean by that. When we train, in fact, the book I'm working on right now goes along with our level 2 training program, which is really all about how to convert raw data into wisdom. Okay. And so we've got a flow chart that we provide to our trainees in order to be able to help them learn this process of working with raw data. Okay. And so, you can see there's 4 columns in here. One is all about the questions we ask. The next is all about kind of getting the data in shape. The 3rd column being actually discovering what's in it. The 4th column being doing something about it, presenting, changing what we're doing, deciding upon a course of action, and so forth. So in a high level, those are the 4 columns of this. But one time I asked myself, where is intuition happening in this flow chart? By the way, it's not linear. As you can see, there are loopbacks, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Loopbacks, aren't there? But as we all know, anytime we work with data, it's like, oh, I need to start over, or wait a second, that's not what I expected. I'm going to take a different path here. So I asked myself, where would I consider intuition happening within this overall process? And so there are 5 different ways and 5 places where I feel intuition is connected and part of the analytics process, the spark plug that's making the engine turn. And it gets down to why, what, where, when, who, and how. Okay. So we'll structure it around those traditional 6 journalism questions. So first, knowing why any of it matters in the first place. Okay, so I love this quote from Albert Einstein. The only valuable thing is intuition. Wow, the only valuable thing. That's a pretty strong, what you call it, recommendation there, or assessment of intuition. So that's what Einstein thought about it. But if you look at that at the very beginning, where do we start with our process? Making an observation and asking a worthwhile question. What's worthwhile in your situation where you are right now? How do you know? Well, usually we have an intuition about what is important. Is customer retention important? Is awareness more important? Maybe we need to turn our attention to employee retention. Maybe that all of a sudden is something that now all of a sudden we're realizing is more important than we realized in the past. Okay, we had to, in some ways, rethink a lot of our priorities in the past year as business teams. What matters now? This time last year, I'll tell you what, our business stopped saying a word about what we do and what we're going to sell. We stopped saying anything. We're like, nope, now is not the time to be marketing or advertising or selling. Turn them all off, So that was an intuition. This is not the right time, okay? I didn't have to go do a survey for that. I didn't have to gather data about that. It's just read the room, right? It sort of occurs to me, oh yeah, that's probably not a good thing to be doing right now. We have these intuitions. But even in the data collection process, you're going to have an idea of what might be an important question to answer. Things that our minds are gravitating toward as it comes down to observations we have. And then also, well, what's your guess about that? What's your hypothesis about what you might see? You're going to say, well, my intuition is telling me we're going to gather this data from this customer survey. I think they're going to tell us product 1 is way better than product 2. I don't know why. I feel that that's true. Okay, well, write it down. I think the customers will tell us product 1 is better than product 2. Go on the record. It's okay if you're wrong. I mean, we don't have to be insecure about it. Like that's my gut take on this. Someone else in the team, I think it's going to be the other way around. Someone else, I think it's going to be a wash. Cool. Let's just throw that out there. And now we kind of are able to put out there what our expectations are. Not like it's a wager, like someone's going to win. I guess you can go that route if you really wanted to, but I wouldn't recommend it. You're going to have some intuition about this. Why? Well, maybe I've been down this road before. Maybe I'm kind of connecting with something I heard or what I think or feel about it. So we're going to have, again, some type of a hypothesis. Test your hypothesis. That's number one. But it gets to this idea of, what matters? Why does it matter? Why does it matter at all in the first place? There's infinite things you can be measuring and analyzing right now about your business. Which are the ones you're going to actually measure and analyze? Okay, that's why we hire people with experience in that domain, because they have a sense of what might be important. We had a great phone call the other day with a friend of ours who's started up a number of businesses, and we just wanted to get his take on some things. And again, I respect someone with that experience who's done what we're doing and has done it perhaps many times with some success. Experience still matters in an era of data, doesn't it? Right? That's proof in and of itself, perhaps. Number two, knowing what to do and what not to do with the data. We published a little book at the very beginning of this business, 17 Key Traits of Data Literacy. You can get it on our website at dataliteracy.com and just fill out the little form and it'll show up in your inbox. Okay. In that quote, one of our advisory board members, Alberto Cairo, gave this following quote. He says, working with data requires a certain degree of numerical and graphical literacy, respectively called numeracy and graphicacy. Okay. Numeracy isn't just mathematics, statistics, or logic, but a sixth sense that is grounded on a grasp, even a tenuous one, of fundamental concepts of those areas. Graphicacy, on the other hand, consists of developing intuitions of what kinds of graphs, charts, or maps are more adequate to either explore our data or communicate the main insights we obtain to other people. Do you see his mentioning these intuitive concepts or ideas, even the idea of a sixth sense, heaven forbid, right? Why? Because the more you work with numbers, the more you work with charts and graphs, the more you just sort of have already a good idea, a good sense of what's going to work. And we can even go beyond there and articulate why you think it's going to work or not work. And even maybe you can point to research that backs you up. But the bottom line is there is certainly an accumulation of experience that gives you the shortcut to get to a good answer, an effective answer, one that's just going to work. Okay, so even working with data involves a sixth sense. It does. It's not an exact science. It's not an exact science. And so that's up here on the flow, analyzing to see what the data is saying, and by the way, not saying, determining both the practical and statistical significance. Let me give you an example. I really love this place called the Enchantments. It's a place here close to where I live. It's a hiking, let me just show you what it looks like. Now, it's so popular that you have to get a permit. Here it is, the Enchantments in outside of a little town called Leavenworth. It's a really beautiful area. And so it's fun to go hiking in there. It's fun to do that and to, to go through this beautiful region. And so again, you need to get a permit to do that. Well, one day I went in there and downloaded all the data about this number of people who applied for the lottery to win a permit to hike through this heavenly area. And so I got the data, and I was going to apply for the lottery. And I was wondering to myself, what's a good day? What's a good day to choose? How can I pick a day that will increase my odds of being able to win the permit? So I got the data, okay? And here it is, the Enchantments permit application, okay? And how many are there? There are a total of, let's just look at this real, 72,000 applications for, I think, like a few thousand spots. So you can see already the numbers are not looking good. But, I kind of said, well, I wonder if like the time of year matters. So I can take when they wanted to enter, and I can maybe make this an exact date. Now I already know I'm going to be really better off looking at time, change over time as horizontal. So that's why I put date on columns. I've been doing that enough that I put time up there on columns. Columns goes left to right. No, it's in commies. Oh, sorry. I'm getting a comment from the Peanut Gallery. So I'll put the number of records. These are the number of people. Oh, wow. Interesting. Looks like there's some kind of interesting pattern going on here. Right. So I'm already thinking to myself, there's a wave shaped pattern here. I think it might have something to do with the day of the week. Okay. What if I take the day of the week and, put that here on, let's see, color. So I've got a different day of the week. Oh, interesting. Now I'm saying, okay, cool. Yeah, it looks like that was related to what's going on here. Looks like Sundays are good days to maybe if my calendar's free and I really, really, really want to win, I maybe just pick a Sunday. There we go. Or actually, the best day looks like it's more like a weird thing going on here, Monday. Okay. Oh, September 2nd. Boom, there we go. I'll pick September 2nd. Except I say to myself, wait a second. Something doesn't feel right about that. Why would it be this tank of a data on that one day? Anybody have a guess? Why do you think the applications went so far down on that one Monday, the second? Why? What was the reason why? It was open. It was actually, it was not closed or anything. And this was being people applying for their permit many, many months in advance, like now, actually. Eric, you nailed it. It's Labor Day. So not many people want to start their trek up through this region on the Monday of Labor Day. Maybe they have plans. I don't know. Okay. So again, I'm kind of already thinking, I'm not just going to go blindly apply for September 2nd. My intuition tells me maybe there's something about the fact that that's a Monday. Maybe if I really want to make it, I'm going to apply on Labor Day, start my trail there. Okay. Yeah, I thought so too, Olivia. Like, oh, hey, maybe. Well, now what's interesting is they probably apply, for the days before that, maybe. Let's see, like they're saying, hey, I really want to go on, the Friday before Labor Day, or that would be, I guess, this one. So we can look at this data all day long and kind of make some interesting observations, like maybe this opposite spike here on the Thursday, the 4th. So oddly, people really want to start on the 4th, but not on Labor Day. So some interesting things to think about there in any case, right? But again, even just like interacting with this data, I'm already sort of engaging these questions, these ideas, these thoughts. Maybe it occurs to me, oh, if I really want to go, I'll just pick one of these days. I mean, look how easy that's going to be. I mean, there's hardly a bit. Wait a second. It's an ice block up there that time of the year. And I'll say, I really should go get temperature data and say, which are the days that have, oh, there's my temperature min and max for these same dates, right? And like, oh, now maybe what if I made a scatter plot and I can see days that have a relatively low number, right, of applications, but a high relative, maybe average temperature. And I'll, say ones that with small dots don't have a lot of rain on them. So, oh, here are my best choices right here, right? So again, this whole process of engaging my mind with the data, asking new questions, this whole idea is sort of what's in this flowchart, is this thing saying, oh, I found out which days were good, but then I had another question: which of the days that are good are low, that also have warm weather and not a lot of rain? So I need to go back to the start and get new data. I need to go find the temperature data, right, for that exact spot, and so forth, right? So again, I feel like that was an analytical process, but it also involved me engaging with my intuition about what mattered, about why things might be weird that I see that pop up, okay? About secondary or tertiary questions to ask to keep me learning and modifying my point of view, okay? And this is actually the second part about the temperature. I kind of jumped the gun. That's this part, knowing when to look next. I love this quote. Now all of a sudden vaccines really, really important in our world, clearly. Well, Jonas Salk, he was the person who's commonly credited with the polio vaccine, even though it was a team. But he says this: intuition will tell the thinking mind where to look next. Oh, I just have this gut feel that I should probably pull in temperature data, and that might explain to me why I have some patterns that I'm observing there, and I can improve. I know for sure that I can improve my understanding by doing that. It wasn't like I needed to analyze all the other kinds of data I could pull into it and go through some process to choose. I was just like, temperature data. I got to get to temperature data, right? That was a gut reaction, okay, a knee-jerk reaction. And that's this find another question. Boom. As soon as you look in the data, you start analyzing it, you go, oh, there's an even better. There's an even better. And I find that too, actually, with Tableau. What I love about it is not necessarily everybody says, oh, and I was in marketing for them for a long time. Oh, it's about the answers you get to your questions. True. But I think more often it's the new question you get that you didn't have at the beginning, that didn't occur to you. That's the value to me of a software that can make you think and react quickly to data, is that you have these brand new questions. Oh, well, I can chase that down, that new rabbit hole I'm going down, right? Hopefully it's a good one where the rabbit's in there. You get it. Okay, so then next one here, 2 more to go. When to stop looking and take action. Knowing when to stop looking. We can keep on looking and looking and looking. In fact, I mentioned Antonio Damasio. We call this sometimes analysis paralysis. He had another patient, and this is a famous patient name's Elliot. That's not the patient's real name. This patient was a really highly successful person, I think, in Wall Street, and had an accident occur. And then shortly thereafter, in a period of a year or less, his whole life unraveled. He found himself divorced, out of a job, on a couch, and went to a psychiatrist to figure out what was going wrong. Started to work with Damasio. Turns out that he had damage to the brain from the accident that he was in, and it damaged that part of his brain that allowed him to stop thinking about something and make a decision. Example, Damasio would say, where do you want to go for lunch today? Elliot would think about all the different restaurants in the area, one by one, start looking at the pros and cons of each one, thinking about what's on the menu, the seating, the distance, the proximity. He would never be able to stop that process and pick a restaurant. So all of us, when we're working with data, get to that moment. Sometimes we call it the diminishing law of returns. There's something that says to us, it's time for us to stop crunching numbers and just make a call here. And that's in this bottom corner of the flowchart. Are these things changing what's going on? Is it appropriate now to take what we know and make a decision? And again, that's kind of an intuitive thing too. Kasparov, my hero chess grandmaster, also founder of the Renewed Democracy Initiative, he says something has to tell you when the law of diminishing returns is kicking in, and that something is intuition. Highly relevant in chess, right? I can sit there and think about, what if it's a timed game? Well, I can think about all the different ways I can move, my opponent can move, but if I do that, I'm going to run out of time. I'll lose the game, and I'll run out of time. I'll lose on time, not because I got checkmated. So that's a relevant kind of a factor there. He wrote a great book I really love called How Life Imitates Chess. And he says, hey, the things we usually think of as advantages, having more time to think and analyze, having more information or data at our disposal, that might short circuit what matters even more, intuition. So in life then, we've got these 2 ways to think about our decisions and our situation. There's an amount of time to decide, not a lot of time, a lot of time. Your decision is coming up. How much time do you have? Okay. Also, how much information do you have at your fingertips? Do you have a lot of information or not much information? So we can see that, we can make a 4-blocker here, like they taught me to do in business school, about everything that possibly could come up in life. So I did. And so we can see, right? Oh, lots of data, not much time. Those are these decisions up here. What about lots of data, plenty of time? So these are places where we can keep crunching numbers, and we've got a lot of time to look at it from different angles and get different perspectives and new data, improve the data. And so in those cases, we might say, hey, we got so much time to decide all we're going to care about is analytics. And we might not necessarily value intuition in that quadrant. We might be here in the bottom right. I've got a lot of time, but not much information. Well, then let's go ahead and get more data. Sure, that's a great approach. But what about times where there's not a lot of time and not a lot of data? Well, you just have to make the call, right? I mean, if you sit there and try to get more data or try to, crunch the little amount of data you have, the window is going to close for you to be able to make the decision, and you'll end up having a poor outcome. Okay. Knowing, lastly, okay, this is again the real human part of it to me, knowing who needs to hear and how to get through to them. What does this mean? Well, we need to kind of connect with the people that are involved. This is a big part of successful data storytelling, whatever you want to call it, presentation with data. Now, there's the founder of university, Temple University, actually. He talks about in his autobiography, this talk he gave, I think it's over 6,000 times, called Acres of Diamonds. And he would give this talk over and over and over again, cities all around the country. Okay. And someone asked him, well, don't you get bored of it? And he said, no, not at all. Because what I do is I'll go to that town and I'll talk to the barbers, I'll talk to the ministers, I'll talk to the post office clerks, and I'll just get to know them. I'll just walk around, ask them what's going on, find out what they're doing, what they're worried about, what they're excited about, okay? Just hear their stories, get to know them a little bit. Then I'll go back and redo my talk. And when I present to them, I'm going to deliver it to them in a way that applies to them locally, all right? So that to me is something that he did in order to present effectively to his audience. And why? That's because he took some time to learn who they are. You are going to be able to craft a notable message if you know the people that are going to be in the room. The more you know them, the better you know them, their goals, their tasks, their concerns, okay? The better you'll be able to craft a message that is notable and relevant to them. And so how to get through to them? Well, first of all, who needs to hear in the first place? We've all had that experience where we presented data to the people at the very end of the presentation. They said, well, hey, that was fantastic, but we don't really have the ability to act on this. This is really not our call. And you say, oh, well, who is? Us, that's someone else in a different office or someone down the hallway or on a different Zoom call right now. Oh, so I got the wrong people in the room, right? So we've all done that. So we have this intuition that in an organization, it's related to the human dynamics of the organization. So-and-so needs to hear. I'm going to present that to that person in this following way. With these chart types, sure. With these other elements of my presentation, images, words, all as a package to spur action, okay? There are intuitive elements to that. And by the way, that is make or break in so many cases. Your analytics can be gold, and it can be just jaw-droppingly amazing. If you don't get this last part right, your intuition fails you about how to use that insight, then it was all for naught. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's throughout, right? It's throughout. I don't think you can go through the process of working with data without engaging your intuition. I'm good with it. I love that. I love that about working with data. It makes it so much more interesting to me. I think it's so much more human. It's so much more fun and enjoyable if we just go for it. Because the full quote from Clive Humby is that data is the new oil, and he goes on to say it's valuable, but if unrefined, it cannot really be used. He goes on to talk about how it needs to be changed, right, chemically, in order to make it a valuable entity. Same thing for us. In order for us to take data and turn it into value, we've got to go through these different processes to break it down, to use it, to leverage it, to find a way to put it to work for us, okay? But it's true, we need to also recognize intuition isn't always so great. It actually can be something that leads us astray, right? You might come around the corner and jump away in fear for a snake, and it turns out it wasn't a snake, it was a garden hose. We talked about that being more like reflex, but intuition is the same way. We might have a gut take about something and it might be wrong. So for example, right, the availability heuristic, this is from research from Kahneman, this idea that, well, we have a shortcut that I can judge what's happening based on something that's in my mind already. I might think, for example, that earthquakes are highly risky and relevant maybe immediately after one. Why? Because the idea, the image of the earthquake is available in my mind, availability heuristic. So then I'll maybe overestimate the risk or the importance of that and undervalue the thing that I can't really imagine or think of, right? So under the availability heuristic, people tend to heavily weigh their judgments toward more recent information, right? So these are biases we all have. And this is one that's connected to the news cycle. We have a bias about that. We need to watch out for that. In fact, that's just one of a huge number of biases that we can find in this amazing codex that was created by a couple designers a few years ago to help us find and identify all the different ways our intuition can lead us astray. It's something we need to be aware of, because I'm not trying to say to you, your gut feel is great, go with it, run with it. Yeah, no. I think that if I said that message and that was your key takeaway, I would be doing you a disservice. You need to be highly wary of your intuition. You need to be alert to these different biases that might be happening underneath the surface, okay? And Kasparov, I talked about him before. Remember this chess hero of mine? Well, he says at times, your instincts will all point in one direction. Well, guess what? That direction's a dead end. It's wrong, okay? Kahneman, he thankfully is going to bail us out. Now, he says there are 3 ways that you can know if your gut is going to be reliable in a certain situation. Ask yourself 3 questions. He gave this at a presentation a couple of years ago at the World Economic Forum. He says, number 1, okay, is there some degree of regularity in a particular area that you can pick up and learn? Think about a batter, okay? This person faces pitch after pitch after pitch regularly. They keep coming, 1, 2, 3 pitches, okay? What are they doing in the batting cage? Having a whole bunch of them come at them over and over and over again. There's a regularity to that. Maybe someone on Wall Street, they're going to be they're going to be buying and selling stocks continually, right? Over and over and over again. So the more regular the activity is, okay, that's where you know your gut is going to be probably better. That's different than like last year when the pandemic hit. How do we handle a pandemic? Oh, that's once every 100 years or so, right? How do we handle that? I don't know. No one's ever been there right now in our situation. Not the people who are alive on the planet today, or at least not, well, many of us, some had been. We don't, did we listen to them? I don't know. It's another story altogether, but there's a rare event, right? Relatively speaking, different than facing a baseball pitch. And second thing, do you have a lot of experience in that area? So if you put a bat in my hand, I haven't swung at a pitch in a long time. I don't have much experience, certainly not recent experience. So the more experience you have in the area, the more you can trust your gut. And this is an interesting one too. Have you been able to receive immediate and concrete feedback in the past? So when I swing at a pitch, I know right away if I should have or not, right? It's probably because I hear the ball hitting the catcher's mitt behind me as I stand there looking out at the fences. So there's some negative feedback. Ooh, that you swung, you didn't really do a great job, you missed the ball, and you got a strike. So it didn't take me weeks to know if the swing was a good idea or not, or if I did it right or whatever, right? I got that feedback right away, instantaneously, really. Not everything's like that. Sometimes we need weeks or months or years to find out if our decision was good or not. So the faster you get that feedback, again, what is this doing? It's training your gut. All right. So again, if you need to think to yourself, okay, I have a gut feel about something, then your next thought should be, okay, well, is it something I should really put a lot of trust in? Okay, how do I know that? Here's a way that Kahneman suggests you can go about answering that question. Okay. So let's go back to the beginning here, and I think we're going to switch it. Hopefully we left enough time for Q&A. Not too much time, but hopefully enough. I said, instead of the phrase, we used to use intuition, now we use analytics, let's say, we used to use intuition, now we use analytics, then we used analytics, now we use both. Okay, so we'll get to that in a minute. But this is actually not a new thought. This is this idea of combining our intellect with emotions, passions, gut feelings. This exact idea can be found in antiquity. So Plato wrote a discourse called Phaedrus, in which one of the characters discusses this exact idea of combining them together, just like a charioteer would use the idea of where he wanted the chariot to go with the power and engine of the horse's legs. So those are things you combine together in order to make the chariot go in the right direction. You can't just have one or the other, okay? With no direction, no steering, it's going to be chaotic and go all over the place. And with just a chariot, well, he's going to have to get out and walk, I guess, right? He's got no power. Well, the intuition can be, again, like the intuition, like the spark plug, it can be the juice, it can be the power behind it. It's not just in Western thought. Actually, if you look at the Upanishads, which is a ancient Sanskrit text connected to Hinduism, they talk about this exact same idea using the same analogy of the charioteer. The discriminating intellect is a charioteer. The mind is the reins, the senses are the horses. Again, the idea is to combine them together as to get the best outcome. That's, as human beings, what we really do when we mature and grow and become wise. We find ways to combine these different aspects of who we are. Okay. So again, the good news there for Becky is she's on the road to recovery, and we're thankful that her doctor had this gut feel that the mammogram data on her desk wasn't really something that she could trust fully, and that she needed to go a little step further to get a little more analysis there. And she's doing great. She's gone through that whole process, and again, like, where would we be today if it weren't for that doctor questioning the data? So we've got to be able to do that, no matter if we're talking about our health or our businesses or our communities, society, right? We need to be able to engage both. Okay, so I'll leave you with a couple things, and then we'll talk. So you can connect it to this book that I think we're going to give away, Learning to See Data. This came out just last December. So I've got kind of really what this is for. Who is this for? This is for people who are reading charts and graphs on a regular basis. So if you're on this call, I'm guessing you're making dashboards, charts, and graphs. You're making them for some people, right? Who are those people? And are they savvy when it comes to making sense of them? So if you want them to be better at that, this would be a good book. I put together a little checklist that you can get. Anyone subscribes to our newsletter can get it. And actually, there's a website that I'll send in the notes where you can go get this. It's really just on our blog. Go to dataliteracy.com/blog. I think a couple blog posts back, there's one about getting this little checklist. And in it, I'm walking through, and this is kind of what's covered in the book, this idea that there are certain elements of the chart that you can look at to pay attention to in order to be able to know what it's saying and not saying. Also want to leave you with a discount code RDUTUG21. You can use that anywhere on our store and immediately get 30% off for the rest of the year till December 31st. That's all yours if you decide to go that route. And here's how to get a hold of me. So you can email me anytime, find me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'd love to connect, hear your thoughts about this topic. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Christopher. So let's hear if there are any questions, or jump right into the
all right.
contest.
Well, thanks for the discount code. I know I'm gonna use that. But yeah, so if anybody has any questions for Ben, we have we have time for one or two, because we also want to we want to give away your books. We're going to purchase your books to give away, and so we want to give them away tonight. Give 5 away, and so we've got a Kahoot quiz. But I do want to leave a few minutes for one or two questions. Again, thank you so much. So let's open it up. Anybody raise your hand, and we'll gladly unmute you, and you can ask Ben anything you want. Well, almost anything.
Yeah, and if you have questions about my time at Tableau or what I think about their amazing software or the community, I'd love to talk about that too.
Absolutely.
I know we used up a lot of the time already, so.
Oh, no, it was well worth it. I think somebody chatted that there have been a lot. We paid a lot more money for a lot shorter and worse presentations. So no, it was fantastic. All right. Well, obviously, can you throw up that contact information one more time, just so everybody can see how to get in touch with you. Again, he's on Twitter. You can contact bjones at dataliteracy.com, Data Remixed, and then he is on LinkedIn. So go and follow him. For the 50 of you that are left, We do have a Kahoot quiz, so we want you to win Ben's book. So you'll be able to win that for free tonight. We purchased some copies of that book, so we want you to win. So Ben, I'm going to take back the screen, and then let's see if I can do this. Okay. Screen share, desktop 2. All right. Well, we have a few quick questions from Ben that Ben's created for us. And so what we're going to do is we are going to, yes, I do want to share that. There we go. So what we want to do is we want to play this quick quiz. So if you have participated in Kahoot before, you know how this works. But basically, go on your phone, go on your computer, go on your device, and go to Kahoot.it, or log in to the Kahoot app on your phone. It's pretty easy to do. Kahoot.it on whatever browser that you're in. You'll enter this game pin and put your username here. Again, it will try to block you if you do put anything inappropriate, but yeah, you're free to put your own username in there. So again, put in the 515-5817. Hope you all were paying attention to Ben's presentation. Some of these are pretty hard, Ben. You did a really good job of covering the data, but yeah, but I had to go back and look a few times. What is the answer to that question? So, all right, we'll give a couple more seconds for any stragglers to come in. Kahoot.it, and then put in your username 515-5817. We've got 19 here now, 20 here now. We really should make this not for the, I guess. Yeah, if user group leaders, if you win, just be prepared.
I'm just here to have fun.
Okay. All right. All right. 21 sounds like a good number to me. Oh, 22. All right. They're streaming in. Hopefully we can. All right. Well, let's go ahead and I'm going to wait 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. So you'll have 20 seconds to answer these questions. They will appear on your phone or on your iPad, on your computer as 4 separate boxes. So you'll answer these questions. Some of them are true, false. Some of them are multiple choice. So pick the one that applies best to these questions. We have 5 questions from Ben. One fun one, and then one about one of the members of our leadership team. So, all right, data literacy, RDUTUG quiz in 3, 2, 1. Here is your quiz. Please pick the answer. What's the word for the tasks that can be performed on a large element, multi-element displays in less than 200 to 250 milliseconds? Is it pre-programmed, preattentive, preventative, or preparatory? We got 15, 16, 17 answers, just a few more, 8 more seconds, 20 answers. We got, I think, a few more answers, 2, 1, and the answer, preattentive. All right, fantastic job, all 14 of you. And who is in the lead? So Ben, we are going to do the last 5. So whoever wins the whole thing, we're going to give those 5 people. All right. So Olivia coming in hot, 950. Eric D, RG, Jesse, and Lewandog. Great job. Great job to those 3 who are faster than our Tableau experts at the bottom here. So good job there. All right. Question number 2. What is the name of the Israeli psychologist and economist who wrote Thinking Fast and Slow? Is it Daniel Kahneman, Con Ariely, Amos Tversky, or Gary Kasparov? Little tricky one here. Ben mentioned both of these individuals multiple times, 2 of these individuals multiple times. So did you pick the right one? 0. And yes, it was Daniel Kahneman. Again, 14 people. Who's coming up at the top? Drum roll. Oh, sorry, I have to click next. Olivia dropped off. RG coming in strong. Jesse, Lewandog, Eric D, and Chris Gray. All right, fantastic, everybody. All right, true or false? When making decisions, it's better to take additional time to get more data to ensure you're making the best possible decision. Is that true or false? It is always better to take additional time.
Is it always true?
Is it
Yeah,
always true? Yeah.
Always
there was a limit on the number of words and characters I could use. So
got it.
Is it always true? True or false? Always. We know that is not always true. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tricky one. Blame that on me there. All right. Who's coming in? All right. RG is still at the top. Chris Gray coming in. Give me the digits. Is that numbers or data? Oh, the numbers. Okay, data. Okay. Lewandog and Kristen coming in. All right. Fantastic. Great job, everybody, thus far. Now, question number 4, multi-select. According to data visualization guru Alberto Cairo, and on the board of data literacy, working with data requires what 2 forms of data literacy? Is it numeracy, literacy, graphicacy, or democracy? There's 2 of these, so select the best 2 here. This was my personal little tricky one in here. All right, three more people to weigh in. There's 2 correct answers here.
That's awesome, Chris. I didn't know you could pick 2. You could give 2 right answers in Kahoot. That's neat.
Oh, there's a few. There's a few in here. You'll see the next one. Yeah. All right. We got 18 and 18. Great job. That is correct and correct. So we've got, all right, RG still at the top. Chris Gray coming in. Lewandog, Courtney, and Eric D. Great job, everybody. All right, let's go to the next one. 5 of 7, multi-select. According to Kahneman, what 3 factors, so basically pick the one that doesn't go in here, need to be present in order for us to be able to trust our gut? Is it some degree of regularity, a strong feeling of conviction, a lot of experience, or immediate and concrete feedback? Which one does not belong?
So do they pick the one that doesn't belong, or do they pick the 3 that do?
No, they pick all 3. Yeah, they pick all
3 that do belong. Okay, pick the 3 that do belong. I should have done it the other way. Pick the one that doesn't belong.
I thought about that. I was building it. Yeah. All right, fantastic. So 8 people picked this one. Most of you picked these 3. So great job. Oh, RG fell out of the lead. Courtney's coming in hot at number 1. Lewandog, Chris Gray, give me the numbers, and Olivia. It's a tight race at the top of the leaderboard. All right, here's a little personal one for Ben that he just told us about before this call. So take a guess. What did Ben spend money on for his family? Was it a new pool table, scuba diving? Did he rent out a whole movie theater, or a new computer? So take a guess here. I don't think you told everybody this, just the leadership call. So, but take a guess. All right, only 2 people got it. And who were those? I'm curious, who were those 2? Oh, look at that. And Courtney, there you go. Look, yeah, one of them guessed the right one. All right, great job, Courtney. All right, and last but not least, the final. For those of you that know Mr. Lewandowski, which hat is most closely associated with our famous Lewandowski? Is it a Stetson, a fedora, a Ushanka, or a pork pie? If you have to ask what a Ushanka is. All right, yes. Greg Lewandowski is famous for his fedoras. All right. On the podium, coming in 3rd with 6 out of 7 is Chris Gray. Excellent. Coming in 2nd with 6 out of 7 as well, but a little bit quicker, Greg Lewandowski. And number 1, all 7 out of 7, Courtney. Fantastic. And give me the numbers, and Olivia, if you all would, if the 5 of you would, besides Greg, would send me your email addresses and your addresses to rdutug@gmail.com. That's again rdutug@gmail.com. We will send you a personally signed copy of Ben's latest book. Ben, would you hold it up for us again so they can see show them what they won? Learning to see data. So I'm very excited for you all to get that in your hands, and for you to make your workplaces so much better. I'm really excited about what we can do with this knowledge. Now, Ben, again, thank you so much for your spending your time with us this evening. Sorry, I don't even know where my Tableau user group went. All right, but this has been a fantastic way to kick off 2021. We're looking forward to a lot of great things. As you all know, Tableau was purchased by Salesforce. So we're going to be doing a lot of things with Salesforce and showing you how you can utilize Salesforce and Tableau at your work. A lot of the new things that Tableau is doing are incorporating things like Einstein Analytics and Tableau CRM, and we'll talk all about that this year. So congratulations to Paul McHale, who just had a baby girl, and congratulate Marit. Can we tell everybody? Are you okay? She says thumbs up. So congratulations to Marit, who will be bringing a bundle of joy into this world, into our data fam, the newest members of our data fam. So we're very excited about the additions here. So Marit won't be with us for the latter half of the year because she will be doing more important things. So we are so excited that she can join us for these first couple of tugs, and Paul will be back with us hopefully next quarter. But yeah, we look forward to seeing all of you this year, hopefully in person at some point. But either way, we will continue going strong, building this community. You're what it's all about. So we have had a fantastic first quarter Tableau user group. Again, I'll raise a glass to thanks to Ben, thanks to our wonderful leadership team, and thanks to this community. So cheers, everyone. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you all soon.